everyone. Welcome to the Shine a Light on series. Today, we'll be shining a light on taking a gap year with V. Welcome, V.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes, good to have you. I'm excited for this conversation. To start, do you mind just giving us a brief introduction to who you are?
Yeah. So I am a 22-year-old student at Rutgers University. I'm based in New Jersey. I study cognitive science. I am currently studying part-time, and I am currently on my fourth internship. I'm a software engineer intern at Microsoft.
That's perfect. No, thank you for that introduction. And can you tell us a little bit about your experiences taking a gap year? Why did you take one? And where are you at with your timeline as of now?
Yeah. So I took a gap year after my sophomore year of college. And I took my gap year because, well, honestly, I wasn't doing as well as I wanted to in college. I I was never, I guess, a great student, and I guess not because I didn't try enough, but because I think I've always been better at more hands-on, like experience type things, and so um, I struggled a lot with different things like mental health, of course. So I think that really took a toll on me, and seeing all my friends around who are in like really successful places already, and they were like getting all these internships and everything, and I guess being surrounded by a lot of successful people and seeing yourself and where you are can sometimes be a lot and intimidating. And so I finally took it upon myself to take a gap year, which I think was needed for a very long time. But I think that coming from a like a South Asian household, things like that are really frowned upon. So it was really hard for me to do and hard for like deal with my family. And I know a lot of Asian people that I've talked to also have similar struggles, and it's a reason why a lot of them don't end up taking gap years, even though they really want to or really need it. It was definitely hard for me to do, but I finally did it then.
Yes, thank you for sharing your story there. And I think you mentioned a couple of really key pieces. I want to start with this sort of external pressures keeping you from taking a gap year. Not that you ever necessarily got over them. I'm assuming you did not ignore them. So how did you sort of deal with that in order to accept, this is happening. I'm taking a gap year. This is happening. What was that process like?
Yeah. So I think it was definitely harder for me to accept. Um, it it took me a while during that summer. I was doing summer school at the time, and I was trying to get my grades up, trying to just think, oh, like I can just get better. I can just like try again next year. And I've had that mentality for a while, but I think that well, I think a lot of things happened, but for one example, the summer that I like decided to take a gap year, it was my first internship, and I was working at a company. I think I struggled a lot with myself, and I felt that my mental health was affecting me in more ways than I thought. Like, not only was it affecting me in a school way, but I found it hard to work, and I found it hard to I guess, be confident in myself. And I think I just needed time to reevaluate everything and figure out what I want to do for my future. And I guess me realizing that taking time off would help me for the better, I think that's what I guess motivated me the most to take my gap year, because I knew that I needed it for myself and I wasn't going to get better because I felt like I was in a constant cycle of doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I do want to touch on mental health next, just like a follow up to your original answer, because I do think time away likely helps me too. So I definitely understand time away from things can help in that sense. Were there any sort of, I don't know, habits or things you've implemented in your life to sort of prevent thoughts from coming back? Because this feeling of like seeing your friends or even strangers do really well on social media or stuff like that, even still can cause some sort of anxiety. So I'm just curious because I know this comes up a lot with students. Is there anything you would recommend in terms of, I guess, coping with other people's success or like what you see online?
Probably the biggest thing I've learned is I've always been a very insecure person, and I think I've like definitely gotten more confident in myself. Um, but I think that because I've like I don't know, I feel like I've made a lot of mistakes, and I always like put myself down because of that, because I haven't always been the best student, and a lot of things. Like I felt like I was always messing up, and I was surrounded by people who weren't messing up. So, like looking at them, it would always make me feel bad. I think a big thing for everyone is that you just have to like really, really believe in yourself. Like you are your like number one advocate, because um I feel like I wouldn't be like where I am if I didn't believe in myself, because you can have people who support you, but I mean, they don't know like what you're like truly capable of, and I feel like no one around me, like, yeah, they don't like know what I'm capable of. Only I do. I feel like when I went against what I thought people thought of me, because I'm sure I overthink what people think of me. I'm sure like everyone doesn't like think I'm not capable of things. I think that was probably all in my head. But either way, I believed in myself enough to know that like if I tried hard enough, then I can get to where I want to be. The thing that has most helped me is to really believe in myself.
No, I love that answer. And I know it sounds cliche. It probably feels cliche to say it because I've said this out loud too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, uh, but no, I definitely agree. And I mean, you're the only person who knows all of your inner thoughts. You're the only person like, I don't know, there for yourself 24/7. So I agree with you. And confidence, I think, is a huge one too. I'm glad you highlighted that as well.
Yeah, I feel like to be honest, when I first interned, it was really hard for me, especially because being a woman in tech
Hmm.
and being like really like I was even like more quiet when I started out, and it was really hard for me because like my whole team were just like guys, and I like everyone was sort of talking over me, and it wasn't the best experience, I guess.
Yeah.
And while like it while it wasn't the best experience, I'm like glad that I had it, because it like really taught me a lot um, about how I need to become more confident, and how like it'll help me go a long way. And I know like in the future experiences I had, even if it's like in leadership positions or other jobs that I had, I really knew like I had different tactics to make sure that like I got my point across in meetings and everything, just to be more confident and get my
Mhm.
voice heard.
Yes, definitely. I'm a fellow woman in tech, so I understand completely, unfortunately. I'm really glad that this conversation is intertwined. It's not necessarily just about, because I think when people think of taking a gap year, they think someone is slacking off or like someone is just like having
Yeah.
fun and stuff like that. These are myths. Like these are misconceptions that I've heard in the past. But I love that this conversation in particular intertwines taking a gap year with mental health and self awareness. I do want to go back to the principle, the idea of a gap year in general, though, to ask you, what was your personal perspective on someone taking a gap year? Like, did you know of these myths, and did you think badly of it? And what is your perspective on it now that you've done it?
Yeah, yeah. So I always knew of people's perceptions of gap years, which is why I was so hesitant to do it in the first place, because not only my family looked down on it, of course, but also even though my friends like accepted me and everything, I think a lot of people around me they were very like success driven and people wanted to like graduate early and everything. I know a lot of people when they start out they're like, oh, I want to graduate early, I want to graduate like a year early and everything. A lot of people like they can look down on you maybe, or you think that they are. There's a lot of myths around it, and that's what um made me scared of doing it. But obviously, like I said before, when I got to that point of when I knew I had to take it, um, I decided to do that for myself and not like I couldn't really think of what anyone else thought of me at that point. I was just like, if you're my friends, you accept me, and you like understand that I have to do it. And yeah, the people around me that knew me, they were very accepting. I even like still lived with my friends during that gap year, and it was a good experience for me, and I'm really glad I had it. I i didn't live with my family at that point. I just worked a lot, honestly, and I think I learned a lot of different things, and now I know a lot of people are taking gap years to like do more internships and everything. Like I started consistent therapy. I did therapy weekly the whole year, sort of worked on myself. My perspective before it was I mean I didn't judge anyone for taking a gap year. Probably internally I felt that I also needed it too. So I think I admired them for doing that. And after taking my gap year, I am super glad that I took it because I feel like I'm very different than I felt like I really changed. So before me taking a gap year and me after taking a gap year is like very different person, surprisingly. Like I think I changed a lot, and I'm glad that that happened because I think I looked at things more narrow minded. Like I thought things mattered more than they should, like um, getting good internships and getting good grades. But afterwards, I learned to prioritize other things as well.
That's really good. It sounds like a lot of growing happened during this gap year for you, which is good. I think that's sort of the purpose of it. So that's good to hear. And I guess the disclaimer of this conversation is that you and I are not necessarily advocating for or against like taking a gap year, but I am curious from your experiences and your perspective, what were some signs for you that you need one and you ended up taking it? I know we kind of covered different reasons why people take a gap year, but maybe from your experiences in particular.
For me personally, I think my whole life I've never been the best at school, and not because I didn't like want to or I didn't try, but I always had like I had some issues with, I guess, anxiety and focusing, depression too. So I think those things did impact me, like even like in high school and middle school. So I think I never had a good experience with school, and I guess that sort of carried on to college. And in college, it's a different story. It impacts you a lot more than it did to me earlier on. I couldn't keep doing that to myself, like doing poorly in school or just avoiding my grades. I knew I wanted to be in tech, but I knew the path that I was going towards that I wouldn't be able to really like pursue the major or anything that I wanted if I kept avoiding what my issues were. So I think taking that time off to actually focus on therapy and things, because I think during school it's hard to like manage those things, like going to therapy and focusing on yourself. College classes obviously take a lot of time, and so many people I know, like who I talk to, they always say that like their classes take up so much time that they can't even think about things like self-care. That's like a big reason, why I needed the time. I really couldn't prioritize myself when I had to think about my grades and my homework and everything. It was just a lot.
Hmm. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. I think that that makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate you sharing your personal story with us. I'm curious if you could go back in time to the beginning of your gap year experience. What would you do differently, or what would you tell your past self?
So in the beginning, like when I first started a gap year,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. What would I do differently?
The answer could be nothing if you're happy with where you're
I
at.
was thinking that actually
Yeah.
because I usually don't regret things. I'm
Okay.
like, which is like funny. I feel like there's like a lot of like things that I've done that like people like want to go back and change, but every like mistake I've made, like I learn from it, and it's made me who I am today. So I wouldn't really change anything because I'm happy where I am now. So yeah, I mean, like I if I went back, like there are things that I could have done differently, but yeah, I don't think I would change anything.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. And I think I always have the same answer to this question. And I think it's because we're overthinkers is my thought. And so we don't really like do things without reason. And that totally makes sense that even if you did make mistakes in some way or another, you learned from them, you grew from them. So all worth it in the end. I love that
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Do you have any last words of wisdom for any students who maybe are looking to take a break for one reason or another?
When making the decision, just try to prioritize yourself and not think about what other people are thinking because it's mainly about you and it's going to impact you, not anyone else. So you need to just focus on like how it's going to benefit you and help you in the long run. Will it help you in the future? Try not to just think about other people's opinions or all those myths about taking a gap year because it can definitely benefit you a lot in the long run. And I, for one, think that it really helped me, and I'm really happy where I am today.
Awesome. Thank you, V. It was great chatting with you today. And to anyone tuning in, thank you for joining us. As always, at Opal, we shine brighter together, and we'll see you next time.